Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pale in Comparison, a proud member of the Doof Network. In this podcast, my sister uses her knowledge of the Otherverse to take a look at Pact, Wildbow's least chill work, and I try to not give away any spoilers. I'm Jenny, and Malia convinced me to read Worm.
I'm Malia, and Jenny convinced me to read everything else. This episode, we are covering Sine Die chapters 14.5 and 14.6. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to issue a spoiler warning. This podcast is filled with pale spoilers. If you don't know what Verona ends up using her shipment of god milk for, and don't want us to tell you, stop now, read Pale, and come back to this podcast. As for Pact, there will be full spoilers to the chapters we are covering.
All right, our summary for this episode Blake and Evan fight some evil birds. Blake spots a hidden tree trap, which would have murdered everyone. Peter gives Roxanne a talking to. Blake is almost choked out, but Corvidae comes to the rescue. But Blake remembers the abyssal vision and is suspicious. Mara is 13 and terrifying. She offers a really crappy deal. Blake plays along, but turns on Corvidae. All the birds attack everyone, but Rose and the cavalry come to save the day.
Woohoo!
What do you think of these chapters, Malia?
They were good. I don't know, Peter was a big highlight, and Rose coming back is hype, so woo!
Yay! That's pretty sweet. All right, we'll start talking about everything. Blake and Evan fight some evil birds.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how Evan, like the relationship between Evan and the others in town is funny,
Mhm.
and rude. Like it seems like they're all like annoyed and or like to make fun of this child. Um, and it's interesting because like I feel like Blake gets along a lot better with random others that he meets.
Mhm.
Which is frustrating because, like, I mean, maybe they're like, "Oh, you're a little kid, shut up," but, like, Evan is, like, so great and wonderful and happy, and, uh, it's frustrating that the others just make fun of him or something.
Yeah.
But seeing them fly together is really fun, and Evan is essential to Blake, like, he couldn't do this at all without Evan,
Mhm.
and it's fun seeing them fly around and, um um, yeah, like, I don't know, Evan just, like, lifts Blake up, like, now he does it literally, um, but he's even, like, "Oh, what's the worst they can throw at us? You beat a dragon." And Blake's like, "No, I didn't," and Evan's like, "No, we have to say it, and, like, the spirits will believe that you're, like, a total badass." And on the one hand, yes, and on the other hand, I feel like, stories like to keep throwing, like, harder and harder things at the hero, and so we don't want something harder than a dragon thrown at Blake.
Yeah.
Um, but it is nice that he hypes him up. He also calls Blake a bird nerd, which is funny because Ben tells me a lot about well, okay, so blue jays are assholes. They're also Ben's favorite bird, one of them. They're
Hmm.
really smart and they're super territorial. And so they'll imitate like hawk sounds
Hmm.
um, and to scare off, like, other birds, and they'll do, like, alarm calls when they'll, do that to, like, make other birds freak out and leave their area, and so when Evan doesn't know the difference between, like, a crow and a hawk and a turkey vulture or whatever, like, he needs to learn what hawks sound like, it's really important that he knows what a hawk sounds like.
Mhm.
Like, it could save your life and or get blue jays to laugh at you, but, yeah.
I feel like out of everything that's been going on, a hawk is probably the least of his worries right now,
I
to
mean,
be
like,
fair.
right now, yes, but I feel like he talked about a hawk trying to eat him, like,
Mm.
a couple arcs ago.
It's fair.
Yeah.
He probably hasn't had time to try to learn hawk calls.
That's true, it's he might not even realize that it's something he could figure out reliably, because I doubt that any of the people he knows besides Blake, like, know any bird noises.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, again, yeah, being with Ben, I know a little bit more about crows and like turkey vultures, versus just like black vultures, and I love that Blake knows that they're turkey vultures, they're not just vultures. And it's weird thinking of them as aggressive. Um, Down where we live, they like to ride the thermals. I think I talked about this last week. But they they just seem so chill all the time, and they're like carrion eaters, you know, they're not like, at least I'm pretty sure, you know, they're not aggressive. Crows are probably more aggressive, but it's interesting that these are the birds that Mara has harnessed. But I do think of them as being like American birds, and so
Mhm.
like you know, New World birds or whatever, not Old World birds. So it is somewhat fitting that she uses them and not, I don't know. Ben
Hmm.
knows more about birds than I do, but
I don't know if anyone knows more about birds than Ben.
you'd be surprised.
Does he have like a bird? Like, has like who's his idol? Probably like a bird guy, right?
Yeah, well, there's this kid. There's this kid who lives down here who's the son of a lawyer down here, and we haven't
Mm-hmm.
actually met that lawyer or this kid, but he's been told about him several times. He's just really, really good at identifying birds, particularly by sound. Um, and he like has a, I don't know, he's kind of a big deal. I don't remember what all the bird watching metrics are or
It's
whatever,
kind of
but
a
like,
big deal.
but people like tell Ben about him when he's like, yeah, I like birds. And they're like, oh, have you met like this,
Okay,
you
to
know,
be
this
fair,
kid?
Ben doesn't ever just say, "Oh, I like birds." He's like, "Oh, that's like red-tailed web weaver Mickey 5000 right there." And people are like, "Oh, this fucker like really likes birds." I bet he'd get along with this other guy.
Yeah. But so there's this website called eBird where you can like track where and when you've seen birds. Um and it can give you an idea of like what birds are in certain areas and stuff. And so he noticed that there was this one name that kept coming up over and over when we were like looking to move down here. He was like looking for cool spots to see birds, and there was this one name coming up over and over, and it's this kid who's a big deal. And so when somebody was like, "Oh, have you met blah blah blah?" Like, he has a son, and Ben was like, "Oh yeah, Ryan." Like,
So Ben, wow, sure, that's not weird at all.
and it was fucking, yeah, it was weird.
I'd be like, "How do you know this?" Oh, wow.
Yeah, but several people have been like, "Oh yeah,
All right,
you
that's
should
not what
meet
I
this
thought you were
kid."
gonna say when I was thinking of like a bird idol. You know, like some. How old is I don't know some
I think
kid?
he's a teenager. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Um, I mean,
so
there's like people who have bird podcasts. There's like, you know, ornithologists and various things, but he hasn't specifically mentioned like a bird idol.
mm, all right. You know
But yeah,
what? I
birds.
mean, because I know you do a podcast with Ben every now and then. Like, do you guys do bird facts at the end, or or no? Because it would never end.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
don't do
think
that.
so. I think
He'll
once
never
Ben
stop
told
talking.
people to try to identify a bird, that was their homework, which is kind of fun. But he's talked about starting a bird podcast with one of his friends who's getting his PhD in um evolutionary biology or something like that.
Is that friend Ryan?
No, that'd be really cool if Ryan was getting a PhD. But so we like to go birding with him, and it I think they do a fun podcast, but they haven't started it yet.
Do you guys have a birding playlist?
No. What?
Why?
What do you mean?
Like, well, I mean, okay, I get you probably wouldn't want to play music like during the birding because you don't want to scare the birds. But like while
And
you're,
you want to be able to hear them.
yeah, but like while you're driving to the birding destination, so you can get in the right mindset for birding.
I don't think so. Sometimes he'll put on a birding podcast. The American Birding Association has at least one podcast. They'll talk about
Are
birds.
you saying that that's not? Okay, it sounds like it'd be really dry, but maybe it's not.
Um
Maybe they're just like totally hip and happening, you know, which
well,
that in itself is not a hip and happening statement. But
my favorite, I haven't listened to too many of their episodes, to be honest, but my favorite segment that I've heard is the host and this one guy will get on, and they have this list of like, I don't know, however many birds there are in the ABA area, which is like it's like the US, Canada, and that might be it.
a
Um
buttload.
but yeah, there's this big list of a couple hundred birds, and they'll do like a random number generator, and then they'll go to that bird on the list, and they'll just like talk about that bird, and it's nuts. I love it so much. They'll be like, oh yeah, like they live here, and like this is kind of like their migration thing, and this is the one time that I saw that one bird. And Ben is overhearing me talking about birds, and he's very
All right, look, I've found this is the first link of
no.
random bird generator online, and it said quantity. I'm just gonna do one. Generate jackdaw. Go.
Babe, can you tell me jackdaw facts?
One fact.
Well, I think jackdaws. So he told me this the other day that
He's a jackdaw.
we don't know if jackdaws are crows, except we do because they're not.
We would probably call them jackdaws.
Oh, wait, no, come. I was gonna tell. Okay, Ben's gonna tell you about this weird thing that English people do with their birds, and then we're gonna move on.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
So a weird thing that English people did with birds they really liked back in like the 16th century was give them human names. So
Oh.
for instance, jackdaw, magpie for
Ah.
Maggie. They used to call them Maggie pie. And what
Oh.
was the other example, babe?
Robin.
The robin, right.
Mm.
Robin doesn't mean red. It's short for Robert. Robin Hood was Robert Hood, but a pet name, right? And so Robin Redbreast used to just be called Redbreast. And then everyone was like, oh, that's Robin Redbreast, our friend. And then we
That's
named
fucking
birds in
wild.
America robins, the American robin, because it looked just like Robin Redbreast. But robin doesn't mean red. All we said was that's the American little Robert.
So is there like
So,
some restriction
Very
for
common
like
bird. You'll probably
them
see
having
them this
pets?
spring in your neighborhoods if you live in North America. And remember, it's Robin Redbreast. What's up?
No, like you said, this is like
Hang on, I
what
still can't
English
hear
people
you.
used to do back in the day. Like, did they have some kind of restriction on like having pets or something? Because is that like they're
Interesting.
like, I can't have a pet that I really
Right.
really want to name Jack.
You know,
So we're just gonna name
I feel like it was
all.
probably rich people who did this because they had the
That makes
time to
sense.
worry about and also like to write it down. But if it were the poor, that would make sense because they would have had to eat all their pets. So they probably named the birds
Oh,
that were
yeah.
fast enough to get away. Anyway,
Like
I hope
Jack.
y'all have a great podcast.
Oh, thank you.
You need to do a bird podcast, babe.
That's great. That's great. Wow. Okay, that was a good fact.
Yay!
I like
birds
it.
are fun.
That's really fun. I feel like that's better than my fact. Although I found another fact that was kind of weird. Anyway. Although I lost it. I don't know where it went. It's kind of sad. I had a good fact and now it's gone.
No.
It's such a sad day.
Yeah.
It was something anyway.
Anyway, Blake gets Hitchcocked.
Blake gets Hitchcocked. Yep, that's a good way to say it.
I feel a little bit bad. He's having some like PTSD from Pose, and he's like, "Oh, Evan, you weren't there." And also, like later, it's clear that Evan. Well, no, Evan probably. If Evan had been there, maybe he would have thought Rose had the thing happen. Anyway, Evan wasn't there when Blake got swarmed by animals last time, and so he's not as freaked out. I also really liked how Blake should do roundhouse kicks, and Blake was like, "I can't do a roundhouse kick in real life," and that was funny. I bet he could do it if he tried.
I mean, he could try. Yeah, he just has to. You could do anything if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, and they're not, not that hard. They're not like flying leaps or whatever. They're roundhouse kicks. Anyway, so these birds are scary, and they're fucking going for it. And so they try to run away by doing this like incredible dive, where Blake's like, "Finally, I feel alive," as I plummet to my death. And your face is funny. Okay,
Sorry,
and then
I'm reading something that. Sorry, you have to cut this part out, and I say that because I want to tell you this fact right now.
well, then maybe just save it.
I know, but I wanted to tell you in case you were like, "This is terrible. Don't fucking say this shit."
Okay.
You sound so annoyed. Oh my
No, I'm
goodness.
just like thinking about all the editing I have to do. It's fine. Just tell me.
You know what? Fine. We'll just
No!
wait and get your reaction. I'm gonna say it, and it's gonna be the fact, and you're just having to deal. You're gonna have to
Okay.
deal with it.
I'll
It'll
deal.
be fine. I think, yeah, it's fucking weird. Okay, sorry, that was my face though. So.
Okay. But yeah, they get this like sixth sense that there's a trap. If they go meet the others, but then they go meet the others later, and there's still a trap somewhere, and it's fine.
I mean, so yeah, Blake spots a hidden tree trap, which would have killed everybody, but
Mostly.
it didn't.
Woo!
Well, I mean, it probably would have. I feel like. I
Right.
don't
Well,
know.
he's like, the Maynard and the Satyr would have been fine. I might have been fine. Green Eyes might have
Okay.
been fine. Everyone
Okay,
else
maybe
would
it wouldn't have
die.
killed everyone. Fine. I was over exaggerating just a little bit, but it would have like it probably would
It
have
would
been
have killed most of the people we cared about.
bad. Yeah. And some
Um,
people we no, I'm just kidding.
uh,
Some people that are kind of obnoxious, but we still care about them anyway, I guess.
yes. I like that Evan figures this out. That it's the rock, and like really is like, no, Blake, look, it's the rock, the snow, blah blah blah. And Peter starts bitching, which is fair. Like Blake can't be cold or something anymore, so he probably, Peter should remind him, but also he could just like walk around in a circle or something.
Mhm.
Do jumping jacks, something. But they set off this trap safely, and it's this big epic crash, 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 crash. And
It's pretty epic.
it's pretty cool. And Peter starts bitching again about how, oh, you're innocent, go with them. You'll be like safer and you'll like protect them from all the shit. Like but no, like I can't protect us from trees and dragons.
You tell
True.
Peter's just gonna be a sommelier
What?
because of all the fucking wine.
This reminds me of Psalm, that documentary. Have you seen Psalm?
I'm not.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's about these they're all men who are going for their sommelier license. They're like master sommelier license. There's different levels.
Okay.
And it's this like really hardcore intense test that takes like 2 or 3 days, and it has like several parts, and they have to be able to identify the like type of wine in terms of like the region and like the winery and like the type and like the year.
Fuck.
Like they get 6 glasses, like 3 whites, 3 reds poured in front of them, and they have, I don't even know how long, maybe like 30 minutes, but still like they have to identify what these 6 glasses of wine are.
Just like any wine
Any
in
wine.
the fucking world.
It's fucking insane. It's a really good documentary. One of the
Fuck.
dudes is kind of a prick bag, but not in a fun Peter way. He's just really hardcore.
Mm,
He's like really, really serious about the whole thing.
he's serious about his fucking wine.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Yeah. But
probably
it's
hate to see that guy sober. It's probably a real stick in the mud.
well, so and that's part of, they'd have spit buckets because you don't want to
Yeah, you
get
can't get trashed.
drunk and
Oh.
like your brain stops working,
Speak
so
for
then
yourself.
you misidentify the last wine or whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, that's kind of sad. It's part of the joy, I would think, of being the sommelier.
I know. Oh yeah, also they have the most supportive partners of all time. They're like their
Sommeliers.
wives and or girlfriends. They're just these dudes in this documentary. It's insane. Like this woman at one point talks about how like if they have like wine parties, she like wakes up and there's just these like spit buckets of wine all over her living room. And also they study for like hours and hours and hours, and they have to go away to like do these crazy wine stuff. Oh, and then
Fuck.
they fail, right? Because it's really fucking hard. It's just like the pass rate for this exam is like so like it's
Fucking
ridiculous.
abysmal.
It's not great. Like people pass, but like and most of the dudes I think in the documentary, like I'm not positive, but I don't think any of them are on like their first try.
Oh, fuck.
And they're fucking devastated if they fail because it's just like so exhausting and awful. And
So if they were to get a glass of wine to relax, would that stress them out more afterwards?
no, I think
Maybe.
they
No?
like wine, but also
What if they got poured the same one? They're like, oh, like here, I'll try this one, and then they're like, fuck.
well, it was
Bring me back there.
I showed it to Ben because it reminds me of law school. Um, like the intense like pressure
Wow.
and like studying, and the worst part is that some of them go and talk to each other to be like, oh, what did you call for the wines or whatever, and they'll like have like like they won't agree. And it's kind of like, well, one, at least one of you is wrong, kind of a thing. And it's
Oh, yeah.
just like with like exams in law school,
That was
like
a terrible feeling.
don't ever talk to anyone about it after, because
Mhm.
you're not going to accomplish anything except for feeling like shit or making someone else feel like shit, because like there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about it. Anyway,
I
it's
learned
very
that in nursing
documentary.
school too. And
Yeah.
I would always think I failed, and most of the time I did not. And so, well,
Right.
actually, yeah, no, I never failed, actually.
The
I
ch-
take that
the
back, but
It's likely that neither of you were perfect and you both got some points and it's all gonna be fine.
both got some points, and you both missed some points, and it's fine.
Right.
Or you at least probably missed some points. But anyway, that's stressful.
It's
Man.
stressful, but it's great.
That was a lot
And
more. That was interesting. I didn't expect that to come from my dumb joke. So that came up all by myself.
wine and
Did you not get it?
birds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about all the stuff we've been all the
Gotcha.
tangents that like sound like they might be boring, but are fun.
But are fun. Wine and birds.
Mm-hmm.
Birds and wine. Whiny birds.
They go great together.
Birdie wine.
So another thing about Ben that's ridiculous is he chooses to buy products that have birds on them. Like when he's not really sure whatever, if like a product has a bird, he's like, I buy that one. And he says it like works out or whatever, because people who like birds like know what they're doing or something. But when we went to Maui for the funeral, we went to Costco and he found like all the bottles, because mom was running out of wine, we were shopping or whatever. And so Ben found all the bottles of wine in Costco with a bird on them and
Yeah.
bought those. They're like 6 different, and they're the bird wine. They were nice.
We were just kind of like, okay, really? You're just going to buy bird wine?
Yep. He wants
like,
to
well,
support
if I
bird
don't know what the
lovers.
type of wine it is, I might as well get all the ones with birds on it. Like, well, okay, I guess you can't really argue with that logic.
Support the bird lovers.
And he brought this bird game. Like, this man is obsessed with fucking birds.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
That's a great game, though. Wingspan. Everyone go
actually is
play
pretty
Wingspan.
He brought it up so much, it kind of made me not want to play it. But then once I played it, it was pretty fun. It was a pretty fun
I think
game.
you're the only one who liked it other than us.
Oh, really? I liked it.
I couldn't tell about Vitalis, but mom, it's just there's too many little moving parts. I don't think she has very much fun playing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ben won every time too, so you can't compete against that man when it comes to birds. Even if it's by luck, just can't do it.
Yeah, also
Okay.
board games.
We need to talk about the fucking book.
Yep.
I swear we need to like come up with like another podcast that's just like Malia and Jenny just like
Talk about shit.
yeah, we just fucking talk our little hearts out.
It's probably Doof After Dark, but
Doof After Dark. Yeah, that's true. But we're recording after dark, which is not that interesting. So anyway, Blake spots the trap.
Yep.
And he triggers the trap.
Yep.
And no one dies.
Yep.
Congratulations. Peter gives Roxanne a talking to because she's being also sommelier.
I mean, she's not really whining Well, okay, so she like gainsays Tiff, which is mean.
Just like a dick move.
Right. And she doesn't get what that means, because like, most people will push back on stuff when they're not having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was rude. And it's nice that, Blake's sticking up for his friends and he calls Roxanne on that and he's like, hey, don't. And Roxanne's like, how about you don't be condescending? And Peter's like, no, Roxanne, these people are better than us. And I don't know that he's right, but like they do know a lot more about what's going on and they do have a lot of power to do hardcore shit. This is a fun breakdown of, the Thorburns and Peter's assessments of his sisters in particular and what they're good at and what they do, like Peter, like this branch of the family or whatever, like is really, really pushed by their dad to be the best. And like the different ways they've dealt with or reacted to that or whatever, like Catherine decided to define success in a way that her dad didn't agree with, and
Mhm.
Paige just like pushes herself to extremes, and Ellie like is a scrapper kind of, and
Mhm.
like Peter's super super smart but will like retreat and study and try to come back and get people, and Roxanne is just like really fucking good at this. And she's scary. I love that she just has a bunch of knives. That she has thought about how to deal with Blake. Because she's specifically taken like knives and then like alcohol and matches.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's kind of cool that Blake's just like, yeah, that's fine. Like, it's okay that she was like making contingency plans to deal with me specifically. Like, and it just is a reminder of how scary and how much of a threat Blake is. Like, people don't like she's noticed how effective and scary he is. But yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but it's nice that Peter's like, hey, we're all scared, and instead of freaking out about us, like freak out about the other
The other
like
guys.
the external threats. um it's also great that Peter's like, you could be as scary of a monster as anything here, which I agree. She could definitely be an Eva, you know. But then Evan's like, that's not true. Blake's horrifying. Like Blake's scarier than any of you.
Like, you're so encouraging,
He's so
Evan. So
cute.
nice.
It's so funny. And I like that Green Eyes is kind of on his list of like, you know, he's like, Blake is the best, but then Green Eyes is also part of the team. So he throws in like, Green Eyes is also a great monster. Like it's so cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. He's a good hype man.
He is. He's a good egg.
All right. So Blake, they see some really scary fucking monster thing that is like
Mhm.
terrifying, and Blake almost gets totally choked out and like neck broken. Corvidae kind of swoops into the rescue, but Blake's like pretty fucking suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. No, I just want a little like video of like Mara and Corvidae doing the like, don't be suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this thing is scary and gross. It's like the corpse that they can't touch but can grab them. I think Blake identifies it as something astral related, which is like what Diana deals with, question mark. Like I guess what does astral mean? Let me Google this. Yeah, relating to a supposed non-physical realm of existence to which various psychic and paranormal phenomena are ascribed, and in which the physical human body is said to have a counterpart. But then also maybe the stars. I think in this version maybe it's more of the like first thing I said. Sorry. But yeah, this thing is scary and bad. So they start trying to figure out how to deal with it, and salt doesn't work, and you know, no one can really grab it or touch it. And you need stuff prepared in advance to deal with astral threats. This could be something like a nightmare
Mm-hmm.
or the doom or a curse made manifest. And I think it's interesting that we've seen, you know, a nightmare and doom in Pale.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that Tiff, like, I wish Tiff had more shit with her in terms of like rosaries and crap. But it's funny she asks Roxy, like, you know, did you grab this? And Roxy's like, why would I? And I'm just like, girl, you just saw, like, have you not seen enough vampire movies? Like, you should have grabbed something if you saw it. Like, you know, you see these like horrible, scary monsters, and you're not like, you know, and you see these like crazy knife lady, and if she had that, it seems like you should have grabbed it. But whatever. Tiff also doesn't have that, so sure. And so she gets a coin, Tiff does, and starts to do this thing where she uses it. I wasn't sure if she was gonna flip it. She like put it on Blake's shoulder, and she was gonna try to like compel the thing to go away. But Corday shows up and fucks that up. Because like a dickhead. And but then he grabs the knife from Roxanne and gets the thing, and we're all relieved because he saved Blake in a super dick way, except we also know that he's evil. Or whatever. He's a bad guy.
Bad fucking dude.
And Peter's like, hey, thank you, welcome to the party. Like, and Blake's like, this sucks. Yeah.
All right. So, they see Mara, and she looks like she's 13 years old, and she's fucking intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not easy to talk to.
No. I liked that Blake kept reminding us of how young she was. Because like we know this by now, but I think I had kind of forgotten that she's like taken over her daughter's body or whatever at this point. I think it's interesting with her seeing the power of ritual and repetition, and she's done things like this for like hundreds of years or whatever to accrue this power and be able to use it in ways like this. But also like Peter is like super right, and she's so boring. Like she's so bland. Like she's gotta be like angry and like bitchy in part because she eats the same shit all the time. Like I couldn't do that. Like, oh my god. Like
Yeah, that would be the fucking worst.
I know.
I
Like
don't know.
I mean, yeah, if you like, if you have to, that's one thing. But just don't you think sometimes you'd like do it a little differently?
Yeah, but then she, yeah, like you've never ordered a fucking pizza or like wanted to do anything like that.
Well, just maybe like, one day you're eating like rabbit, and maybe the next day you'd eat like chicken, or like you'd like shake things up a little, like do a different spice in your whatever stew.
I mean, I don't know if she necessarily has to eat like the same animal every day, but like I'm sure she gets the same types of things at least.
She said she eats the same thing
I
at the
know.
same time in the
I
same
know.
way every fucking
Yeah,
day.
you're right.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'd go fucking insane.
And yeah, just like no wonder she hates everything.
I mean, you know what? Maybe that's the secret to defeating her. Because like, if you've only eaten one fucking thing for like eons, like you just gotta fucking sneak some shit in there, and then she's gonna have like straight up
horrible reaction.
like she's gonna have horrible shits and just vomiting, and it's just gonna be bad. You know?
That's so awful.
I mean, yeah, but
See,
like,
I almost thought you were gonna say like, give her a slice pizza and she'll be like, wow, like I'm
but
no
she's not-
longer an asshole.
oh, no, but she would never try it.
That's
I
true.
mean, unless you could use magic to disguise a slice of pizza as like a fucking bland ass like rabbit leg. It's charred to hell.
I mean, hopefully she's a decent cook or whatever.
Yeah,
I guess
she's had plenty of time to fucking practice. Maybe that's why she's like, no one can cook better than me. Because I've been doing this for fucking like hundreds and hundreds of years. So like, obviously, I know what the fuck I'm doing. So there's no point to even eating anything else.
Yeah. It just sounds boring.
Abysmal. Sounds fucking dreadful.
Right, it just like doesn't sound worth it. And I mean, I guess it's like, boredom is a construct, like loneliness is a privilege, like
fuck you.
like bleh. But also just
like you're telling me
go to
that
sleep or something. Like why are you doing this? What's the point? Go to bed.
I mean, I don't know what that says about someone. Like I guess it's kind of impressive that she just like doesn't get bored, but also just like I just don't. I mean, I don't know. I can't comprehend not getting bored.
I want to see her talk to a fairy and be like, "Listen, you weak bitch!" Like, because fairy's whole thing is like trying not to get bored.
That's true,
and
because they live for fucking ever.
Right, but so has she.
So does she. That's true.
Maybe most, but I bet she's older than Marissa. Like I bet.
Yeah.
She's not that. Like I bet a lot of fairy are older than her. Like I'd even believe maybe like Gilame or whatever is, but I'd believe she's as old as Podrick or whatever. Maybe Podrick.
Podrick. Okay.
then-
Glad I added that to the podcast. It's gonna add a lot of content right there. So yeah, she's fucking scary, and she doesn't eat fucking anything interesting.
Yeah.
But she's intimidating, and like she's got a lot of power.
Right. And she's just also like so angry. Like she's like, how dare you come here without my permission? And just like, oh, like, can we have sent a letter? Like, what could we have done?
It's like you couldn't have done
And she's
anything.
like, nothing. Like, fuck you. And it's like, okay.
That's unreasonable.
Yeah, like that's stupid. And I don't know, I was just like proud of Tiff for this. Like it's impressive how much she's like retained and learned about the practice and all this stuff. And she's really like she's kind of like second in command of this whole mission thingy or whatever. Like Blake obviously is dominating, but she's like doing a good job. I like that Blake kind of acknowledges this. It seems a funny like point in favor of like awakening improves you as a person.
Yeah.
But also I don't know that he gives her enough credit. She was really shy in groups and stuff, so that's a thing that's changed.
Mhm.
But she wasn't afraid to call Blake on his bullshit like during their date.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, I mean, yeah, she's had this in her in a way.
For sure. That's true. But yeah, it's definitely we can see it better.
Right. I mean, she has grown. But yeah, so then Blake decides to walk this weird tightrope between like I'm not picking a fight, but I'm also being threatening because that's what she understands.
Mhm.
And
everybody else is fucking nervous about it.
right, which is fair cuz yeah, she wants you to like pick a fight, like she wants you to be, you know, whatever.
She wants a fucking excuse.
Right. It is pretty fun. I thought it was really funny when Blake's like, I'm speaking her language. And
Yeah.
it's like, Indian? So fucking funny.
That's great. Yeah.
Because, like, no, Evan, he's obviously speaking English, like, what are you talking about? But also Indian. Like, God, it was so fucking funny. And props to Tiffany for knowing the language that Mara likely speaks.
Yeah, that's pretty sharp.
But, God, that was so funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we're Jacob's bell's being drawn into the abyss. Like, fucking good.
Right. Like, so I guess I mean it's about this time where I'm like, what was the plan? Like, what was the deal? And I guess they just like are trying to rule out, like they're trying to figure
Story
out
of like
who-
their fucking life, right? What's the plan? I don't know.
just like what's the angle? Like I guess they're trying to figure out and they're trying to rule out, you know, who is the big bad behind the scenes manipulating stuff.
Yeah.
And so I guess you do want to go and be like, hey Mara, is it you? But also when they're just standing out here like maybe about to die, it's like, why are we here, guys? So Blake is like, fight me, bitch. And Tiff's like, I'm here so
No?
that this doesn't happen.
Yeah. Can we not do this?
And Blake's like, there's no other way. Probably. But also he's buying time. And I'm like, buying time to figure a way out of this, buying time for Rose to show up. Like, what are you doing?
He didn't get that far, Malia. It's just he buys the time and then everyone else figures the other stuff out.
He does. Oh
He
my
can't
god.
do everything.
He does need time. So
He does need time.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I'd have a hard time being a practitioner because I mean, I guess you can just call people on their bullshit all the time, but you have to listen to people be like, what is humanity like? Like fucking bullshit. Like love is an invention.
what is oh.
I couldn't do it. Like, oh my god.
I hate you all
And
so
you have
much.
to do it because she can kill you
She
with
gonna
the
kill
tree.
you.
You know,
She's
like
like-
the tree's gonna kill you.
It's like you were the equivalent. You have the lifespan of a moth, and I'm gonna
Right, and she can like
just like
affect time
snuff
and
you
make the
out.
birds attack you and stuff. Like you can't just be like, fuck off.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Uh, although
yeah,
Peter
that's
tries
rough.
and he's great.
Yeah, I mean he gets stuff moving,
Hmm.
but that's later. But um, yeah, no, it's like a bunch of like. I feel like she would be like a philosophy
Oh my god.
major.
All
But like,
practitioners should be like philosophy, rhetoric, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean it's a fun conceit to have that like be effective. Make like cool speeches and whatever like have weight and so they like really make sense in this universe. But sometimes, man, like it's too much.
all right. So Mara offers a really terrible deal. She's like, yeah, just like kill some people and I'll let the same amount of them leave. And Blake plays along, but he turns on Corvidae.
I love how Blake is like, okay, what is my one thing that I bring to the table? Murder. Like, hey Mara, let us go and I'll kill some randos. It's gonna be great. Like, let me do it. You hate humans? Fine. We're gonna do it. Um and she's like, no, I hate these humans. um and like Blake, what does it say about you that basically everyone here except for like probably Evan and Green Eyes thinks that you're gonna kill them? Like, I guess we don't see Tiff um like be super afraid, but I'm sure, she was worried about it. And especially when he's like sorry about this, like don't say that.
Yeah.
um
Like here way to like
like that was not the thing to say. I like that he recognizes that Peter and Roxanne are threats. And also like good for them. Like
Yeah.
this scary man with a sword is like killed.
Like, well, I guess I'm gonna pick half of you to die.
Right, and it says sorry about this, like fucking get those matches, like let's go. But also I'm glad that, he's like, I'm not gonna hurt family or
Yeah.
whatever. And that was nice. And he kind of goes through and he's like, no. And I totally forgot Corvidae was there.
Mhm.
Because he's like, I turned to the three others and I wasn't counting Green Eyes. And I was like, you have to be counting Green Eyes. Like, there's no one else there.
There's no one else there.
And then it was Corvidae. And so he uses this to be like, okay, you're working with Mara, so I'll kill you. And Mara's like, he's like indigenous, so I take that as an insult. And I don't remember who says it, but they're like, aren't insults invented? And I was like,
Like,
yes.
oh,
They are.
fucking, that's right, bitch. And she's just like, damn it. They got me on that one, but
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so it's all this like multi-dimensional chess with Corvidae and Blake and trying to figure out, what is Corvidae implying, and then there's Mara who's not being super subtle and oh, if I kill you, you'll come back. Not if you kill me with the hyena, and then Mara being like, well then kill Green Eyes. And Blake's like, no. And so then Mara decides to play around with the time magic in her area, and Peter decides this is a good time to start yelling at her, which is great. I can't tell if this is a good idea or not, but I do like when Peter yells at people, and I really
Yeah.
love when the Thorburns are like, no, you don't understand, like, we're the worst.
like we're really fucking terrible.
We're so bad. And like he's like, hey, Mara, you want a bunch of people to die? Like, let Blake live. Like, he's good at that. Like, he's gonna make this happen. And I love that Tiffany's like, oh, I wish I'd gone with Rose's group. Like, poor Tiffany. But yeah, it's like the Thorburns are so shit that we're a cancer and we'll kill humanity if you let us. Like, it's gonna stretch way beyond this town. We suck. But then Mara compares like humanity to cancer, and the Thorburns are like a poison. And you use chemo to try to kill cancer. If if you apply a poison carefully, maybe you can cure the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter's like, we're not careful, we're like fucking crazy. And then Mara says, like, the thing that makes me the most hopeful I've been in a couple arcs, which is basically like, I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about your grandma. Like, your grandma is smart enough to like carefully use the Thorburn poison to kill cancer. And this is the thing that gives me the most hope about Grandma Rose. And because like Mara obviously sucks and like wants everyone in this town to die.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that like, she wants to counteract Grandma Rose suggests that Grandma Rose is trying to do a good thing. I hope.
Can only hope.
Yeah. And I like that, Peter's like final thing before the birds come back is he's like, you're not even human because like humans strive to improve, like humans strive to change. And by like never changing, you're less human than everyone here, including like the ghost mermaid and Evan. Also, where the fuck did the faceless woman go? Because like she totally was here, and then she wasn't here this chapter, and I miss her.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Well, moving on. The birds all attack. It's like the movie The Birds,
What?
except like 1,000 times worse.
Mhm.
And then Rose and the cavalry come to save the day.
Dun, 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 dun. I like that Peter asked Roxanne for help. That's kind of nice. But yeah, he's trying to light matches and they keep being put out. And then Green Eyes eats crow, and I thought that's an idiom, and I don't remember what it means, so I'm gonna Google it. Eats crow. Eat crow. To be humiliated by having to admit one's defeats or mistakes. Right. Hopefully she doesn't have to do that, but she does eat crow. And Corviday's gonna stab her, and Blake runs, and he's like, duck Green Eyes, and then she almost like fucks him up, and I'm assuming that's some sort of, Corviday manipulation. But then he's stabbing, but then a hand grabs him, and it's Mara who stopped him from stabbing Corviday.
Yay!
And so he takes the hyena and is like, I've been, totally adhering to my oath or whatever. And so Mara has the hyena and she's like, you suck. And, I want the spirits in this place to, give him a heart and stab him in the heart with this blade. Which is a lot. And I was like, he already has a heart. Which might be important. At least I think he still has a heart. But yeah, so then Rose shows up with a fucking hunting rifle, like shooting. It makes me think of Jumanji. The the hunter guy.
Yeah.
That guy has big Conquest energy, and Rose is definitely channeling
For
that
sure.
right now. And I
For
thought it was
sure.
funny that she's like, I thought this meant I couldn't miss. And they're like, well, not if they can dodge bullets. Like, we're not that hardcore. Like, it helps. And I love that it's just like fucking Rose is the one doing it. It's not, one of the knights or someone else with her, and like I love that energy. It's very Conquest. But also her group outnumbers Blake's, which is rude, especially considering that he like specifically was like, send the same number of people to Rose as you're giving to me, to Jeremy. And like maybe the knights just got there and they were like, well, let's go meet up with Blake. We're heading the same direction, but like sus.
It's pretty sus.
I don't get why Corviday gave Blake one of Mara's dolls. I'm assuming it's one of Mara's dolls. I'm not sure what smashing it has done, but that seems bad for Mara.
Well, Neither does Blake, probably. So
Mara refuses to say whether she's involved, which is fun. And Corbett is a little shit, which is fun. Allow me to consult my notes. Like, God, so good. And he's like, shoot him, except don't, because he has a hand mirror bound in paper. And this is very exciting.
that could be some crazy shit.
It could be.
All right. Now we're at our pale in comparison section.
Woo.
Woo. So it seems like you want to talk about blood hag stuff.
Yeah, I just remember, so they thought Alpi was a night hag?
Mm-hmm.
And assuming that Mara is a blood hag, and that's an accurate depiction or whatever, like, holy shit, Alpi would be fucking terrifying. I mean, she's already, like, really powerful and scary,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, I guess Mara could, you could theoretically have, like, a nice blood hag. I'm not sure what the word blood, like, what's haggy about it and what is blood about it,
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, like, were people super fucking freaked out about Alpi when they're like, maybe she's a hag? Because, oh my god. Terrifying.
It's fucking scary.
That was my big thought.
I mean, I kind of figured, the blood hag thing was in large part just how she continues to live forever in terms of like, taking over.
The blood of her daughters.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, yeah.
That's how I kind of see it. I don't know if there might be something else, but it's kind of what I think.
Yeah, maybe there has to be that.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe blood hags do different things. Maybe there has to be a blood connection. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, seems like hags are pretty scary.
Yeah. She's a fun example of the, like, blurry line between other and practitioner. Because it doesn't seem like she necessarily awoke. Like, I don't know her relationship with the seal. She, seems to have existed before all that. And, the idea that she can practice, but she's also another, but also what is, like, fun. And, yeah, that's just such a big theme in Pale, and it's also been a really big theme in Pact, what with Blake and Rose, but it's fun seeing Wildbow outline boxes and then tear them down, I guess.
All right, cool. I want to talk about your bold and specific prediction.
I wrote one down.
You wrote one down. It says it's Conquest.
It's Conquest.
So, elaborate, please.
Yeah, so the first time I read through and you see Corvidae and he's holding a hand mirror and it's bound in paper, I was like, oh, it's Conquest, he's back! Like, Corvidae has Conquest in the hand mirror, and he may or may not release him and fuck everything up. And then I was like, so does everything just go back to normal in Toronto? Like, does Conquest just go back and everything goes back and it's all just whatever? Or maybe he doesn't release him. And then my second read through, I was like, no, that's what Wildbow wants me to think. But it's really just a fucking hand mirror and there's nothing happening. Like, it's just a trick. But I don't think we know what happened to the hand mirror and stuff. And I've also, like, tried to outthink Wildbow too many times. And so it's Conquest. And that's where we're settling.
All right. Okay, I like it.
It's Conquest.
Okay, our previous discussion question from last week was design a dragon in the Otherverse. What is its origin and what is its element? We have some really good ones and some really long ones and some really long and good ones. So I don't know if we're going to be able to read the entire thing for all this, but we're going to try.
We're going to try.
And do our best. So first we have Hobo Demon. They say, we all remember the GameStop stock squeeze, but we only know the mundane aspects of the story. The infinite debt of the mutual funds who had shorted the stock generated a dragon native to the electronic realms, powered by the crushing forces of owed money, and has been adjusting variable interest rates ever since.
I really like that.
That's pretty great.
Captain Rhino has envisioned an ice dragon that's created by an elementalist who's fucking around with ice magic in their domain, while a shaman is harvesting warmth and fire spirits for a big project. So these things like interact with each other. The shaman is a bad practitioner, and so they release their ice magic into the snowstorm, and which drives like heat spirits away, sucks more cold spirits in, and the domain fucks up because the elementalist has died because they suck, and like all these bindings and stuff fuck up, and boom, ice dragon.
Boom.
And it's a more interesting and elaborate answer. So go read it on Reddit.
Go read it on Reddit.
Woo!
It is pretty sweet. Okay, this is long too. This also seems good. Voided anxiety. So says it's kind of interesting. It seems similar to some pale stuff, just reading off the bat. So it says a particularly cruel and physically isolated practitioner family has a habit of intentionally horrifying prisoners as a means of psychological warfare. So they check and make sure the prisoners don't have any magic items on them beforehand. It's really thorough, so they don't magically like explode themselves by horrifying some random fucking magical shit. So one particular prisoner happened to be the champion of a god of healing and had a gift from that god implanted into his chest cavity, which was a small talisman capable of like accelerating healing for as long as power is fed into it. Prisoner intended to steal from the family and had several obfuscation spells in place, which was enough to keep him from being caught, but made it just let his implanted item slip through. So he's gruesomely horrified, sealed in a cell in the center of the diagram. Normally, the talisman would draw in spirits of healing, which would inhabit the wounded flesh for a bit, and then they'd move on once the user was healed. But the spirits found themselves drawn in and held within the champion's horrified body, and they weren't really sure what to heal or how because his body was like so fucked. So that resulted in more horror flesh growing, which further compacted and gnarled into the horrified form within the diagram, which was in more real estate and wounded flesh to hold healing spirits. So it took about 5 years for the massive limbs and rage to rip out of its tiny space in the wall, and only a few wild minutes to slaughter most of the family that had created it. The horror dragon, a vortex of swirling, flailing flesh, consumed its fellow prisoners and fled into the nearby forest, and now roams around the surrounding mountains and woodlands, inarticulately screaming rage and pain into the air, growing all the while. It is considered a kill-on-sight problem, but as it was last compared to a building in size, no one is in a hurry to try. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fucking terrifying.
The legendres on that stat.
Yeah.
Buying that shit up.
Buying that shit up.
Jarl Zarl has a fun one that reminds me of hobo demons. They say that a technomantic cryptocurrency dragon is created because it only has value, power, because people say it has power. And not like a big scam or whatever, but kind of like how like a god that worships itself, right? People say this thing has value, which means it has value, and then it looks like it's increased in value, and so more people say it has value, and it keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So
that's awesome.
It's just
I love it.
Money is a lie.
Money. All right, but last but definitely not least, Wildbow answered, and I'm just gonna say beforehand, because I'm probably gonna try to summarize it a little bit. Go ahead and read his answer on the Reddit post because I probably won't do it justice, but I'm gonna do my best. So he says a witch prepared her gingerbread house as a lure to entrap children. So made some candy that the children would eat until they were too sleepy and way down to move. She secured it further, ironically, by being on the local PTA and managing a campaign about the dangers of sugar, which made like everyone, of course, want to eat fucking sugar when they see a candy house. So she dressed it up with a bit of panache and a streak of cruelty. Panache. Panache? Maybe that sounds, which rhymes with ganache, which
Oh,
really fits in
holy
to
shit.
this candy house, which I know was not the point of that word, but so the kids with stomachs distended from the sugary treats they'd eaten would be gradually swallowed up by the ground and dragged into the cellars of the house where they would be candied, which is really fucked up. Each child became the source of production for a particular type of treat, like a cookie, chocolate, candy, something like that. He said one kind of asshole kid became black licorice, but maybe that was nice for the kid. Um, every bite taken out of the candy was felt by the child who created that candy. And so they were cursed, trapped below, told they would only escape if someone else ate every last bite of that particular treat on the premises. And that person would be their soulmate with a taste for them in particular, and they'd run off free and happy or traumatized. But I mean, they would be free. But things didn't tend to get that far. Incoming victims would inevitably want to try the next amazing treat. So enter Bernhard. This little boy had met a mean spirited goblin years ago who had given him magic. He could eat anything. So he won his pie eating contest and he could eat his aunt's awful cooking. That seemed really well. But there was a catch. He had to eat everything offered to him. And the goblin was probably a complete ass and fed him a bunch of terrible shit. But he eventually won with a trick of words, ate the goblin, carried on for a few years until he found the candy house. So that on its own wouldn't be enough to make a candy dragon. But the witch had to be away for a few months to look after a sick relative, and she rigged things to manage themselves, basically infinitely replenishing candy. She asked the local powers to look after her place, make sure things kept going. So the boy who could eat anything ate everything, and everything like was infinite. And by the time anyone realized what was happening, things were pretty fucking bad. They couldn't get in contact with the witch. Bernhard became a little hefty dragon egg and not of infinite loops, patterns, and established repercussions. So that's how the powers of that region got forsworn. The witch came back to find a fucking dragon in her pocket world, which would have been a candy house, and the candy cursed children who were trapped got free when the dragon dug for and ate all the candy in one swallow. They didn't get their soulmates, but they're not really gonna fucking complain about that. They fed the witch to the dragon, hung around for a while, keeping the dragon company for a bit until the magic sustaining them eventually crumbled. Bernhard is more or less gone. There's just a candy dragon that keeps fucking growing, strains the boundaries of the pocket world, and no one knows what's going to happen when the walls shatter. No one knows where he is. No one listens to the Forsworn who are supposed to care for the space. So no one has warded it or secured the borders. 1K it will go free, and no one will have any idea how it happened.
So does it okay, that's awesome.
I love that you're going to ask me questions. Like, I know.
Well,
but
no, we're gonna speculate. So
okay.
I am imagining like a classic European dragon, like made out of like bright pink candy and shit. Do you think it breathes like red hots? Like what? What does a candy dragon do?
What do they do? What a question. Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends. Like, are we going with like in terms of breathing fire with like the element in terms of like the feeling of heat or like the look? Like, could it be like cotton candy coming out of its mouth? I mean,
like, will it just so if it gets out of the pocket world, is it just gonna be like a big massive lump of candy, and then is it just gonna like spread and eat and like get more and more and spread the candy? Or is it gonna like fly around and like shoot fucking
it's gonna be really fucking bad during like the winter time. Think of all those gingerbread houses. They're just gonna be like gone. It's gonna be terrible.
Yeah. I realize another question that would have been fun is like how do you destroy it? Because I mean like in the chapter we kind of learned that like you destroy it by like outdoing it and or stabbing it. So do you need like Willy Wonka to show up to fucking like obliterate this candy dragon? What needs to happen?
You can get like a giant like toothbrush. Some good fucking toothpaste. I don't know. I mean, that's true, but that would have been tricky.
Right. I have so many questions.
Yeah, this is great. Well, I mean, we got a new discussion question we can ask, so we could keep going. Could be like,
fight the candy dragon.
fight the candy dragon and all the other dragons, the horrifying dragon, the snow dragon, the GameStop dragon, and
The Doge dragon.
the what?
The Doge dragon.
That's right,
Dogecoin.
the Dogecoin dragon.
No, my brain stopped.
How many kinds of hags are there?
I don't know. Night hag, blood hag.
Well, according to D&D, there's 6 types,
Ooh.
which I don't know if
I mean, it's a start.
start, which I'm not saying a blood hag, but maybe just it's just not named that way. Okay, so there's the Annis hag, which is the large one.
What?
She's the
What?
largest one. She's 8 feet tall. She disguises herself as a kind old woman, encouraging children to confide in her. But like, yeah, I don't know. The bear hag, which I probably didn't pronounce right, but whatever. They become living examples of the cruelty of winter. Say that. Dusk hag. She can see visions of the future to attract audiences. They tend to cause more problems than they solve. Green hag, which is the environmentally friendly hag. No, she's clear roots in the green-skinned witches of fairy tales and classic films. They live in dead forests or isolated swamps, and is putrid and gross. And then there's the night hag, which they were once fey creatures, but were so foul they were banished to Hades. They can play the long game. There's the sea hag as well, which is winning the last in literally any beauty contest. That's what it starts with.
Rude.
The pale and scale-covered sea hag has a hatred of anything beautiful. Okay, I feel like these might not be the types of hags that Wildbow is thinking of, but
I don't
you never
think
know.
so.
I mean, maybe.
I
So-
had a thought for a discussion question that's unrelated.
Okay, so that might be like better.
Well, I was thinking because we started this episode talking about things that sounded like they'd be boring but were actually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So like, recommend like some sort of piece of media that sounds like it'd be really boring but is actually really cool.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Okay.
I feel like that's a really sweet idea. Yeah. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a rating and review. To support our podcast, go to patreon.com/doofmedia. And if you'd like to support Wildbow as he continues to write fantastic stories, go to patreon.com/wildbow.
You can follow the pod on Twitter @PaleComparison or send us an email at paleincomparisonpod@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our discussion question and share your thoughts on this episode. In addition, if you would like to see all of my predictions laid out, check out our episode description for a link to a prediction tracker. Next episode, we will be covering chapters 14.7 and 14.8.
Okay, I have 2 possible fun facts. So there's one I've written down below, which Malia can see, and obviously y'all can't, which is about perfume. And the other one is the one that I made the face at earlier. It's just fucking weird.
I need to know the face one.
Okay. All right. Okay. This is weird. I don't even remember how I figured. I don't know. Okay. So there's like this old nursery rhyme, which I've never heard before, but maybe you've heard it, Malia. I've never fucking heard it. It's like cockle bread. It's like, my granny is sick and now is dead, and we'll go mold some cocklety bread up with the heels and down with the head, and that's the way to make cocklety bread, which is a really weird nursing rhyme. But so apparently cockle bread was like a really shitty type of bread that was like British corn or wheat mixed with cockleweed, which may or may not be kind of toxic. But this is a long fucking time ago. So in the 17th century, a practice known as molding cockle bread had a sexual connotation. So molding of cockle bread. So it's like either this weird fucking dance that's basically seems almost like twerking. So it's like a dance that involved revealing the buttocks and simulating sexual activity, which is known as molding the cockle bread. So what is this like? Yeah, okay. So John, I know. I'm gonna read a description of someone like talking about the dancing. So John Aubrey, whoever that is, writes of young wenches indulging in a wanton sport called molding of cockle bread, where they would get upon a table board, and as they gather up their knees and their coats with their hands as high as they can, and then they wobble to and fro with the buttocks as if they were kneading of dough with their arses. And while doing this, they would sing the rhyme, "My dame is sick and gone to bed, and I'll go mold my cockle bread up with my heels and down with my head. And this is the way to mold cockle bread."
What the fuck?
So,
How do you knead dough with your butt?
creatively. So then this guy also writes like they found in some fucking book, what is it? Bucardus's book Methodus Confitetti. So it says one of the articles of interrogating a young woman is if she ever subjure panem clunibus or whatever. Basically saying that like some women would fucking get bread dough, put their butt or their like vulva on, like push the dough into it,
Nope.
bake it, and then
Nope.
give it to the one that she loved to eat.
Would you just get like the worst like yeast infection or UTI or whatever the fuck? Like that's horrible. Don't do that.
I mean, hopefully they didn't shove it up there. I mean, they just push it again. I mean, like they probably had a bunch of infections back then because the people would never like fucking bathe anyway. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to go from that. I don't know if that was a common thing. I don't know if they like if it was like a secret where it's like I know I did it, but he doesn't know, or if it's like, hey, I like you. I just wanted to give you my vagina bread, my vulva bread, just to let you know how I feel. Like maybe that was the old Valentine's Day type of thing, you know? Nowadays we give chocolates and flowers. Back then they gave cockle bread.
No. That's amazing.
So yeah, so that turned into a weird ass nursery rhyme that I've never heard of.
About your dead grandma? It's just
Yeah.
so weird.
About your dead grandma, and you're gonna mold some fucking cocklety bread, which used to be like fucking twerking. So thanks. Thanks for passing that on to your kids, you weird fucks. Yeah. So yeah. It's just really weird.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, glad to you learn something new every day, they say, or you try to, and so you're welcome.
On that note, I'll
Have a
talk
good week.
to y'all later.
All right. Bye.